आपादमौलिपर्यन्तां गुरूणाम् आकृतिं स्मरेति न विघ्नप्रणश्यन्ति सिद्धन्ति च मनोरथः लक्ष्मीं तनोतु नितरामितरानपेक्षमङ्गलद्वयं निगमशाकिशिखाप्रवालं भैरम्बमम्बुरुहडम्बरचौर्यनिघ्रं विघ्नाद्रिभेदशतधारधुरन्धरन्नः सर्वेषां स्वागतम्. Welcome to the Bhāvārtha session for the 18th shloka. So, two arguments, counter arguments, rebuttal have been faced. We go further now. यदा परात्मात्मविभेदभेदकं विज्ञानमात्मन्य विज्ञानमात्मन्यवभाति भास्वरम् तदैव माया प्रविलीयतेऽञ्जसाम् सकारकारणमात्मसंसृतेः यदा परात्मात्मविभेदभेदकम् विज्ञानमात्मन्यवभाति भास्वरम् तदैव माया प्रविलीयतेऽञ्जसाम् सकारकारणमात्मसंसृतेः. So now, after saying that what is the limitations of karma, or when till when can we follow the karmas or the kriyas, and then when it has to be given up, defining what karma tyaga means. We have reached this state where we are saying what happens after jnana occurs. So, yada paratma atma vibheda bhedakam. Atma vibheda bhedakam. So this is the knowledge. Paratma, Atma Vibheda Bhedakam, destroyer of the differences between. There are two. Paratma is the Paramatma here. Atma is what I am, this Jivatma. So when I start to stop identifying myself with my Atma, and when I start to think about the Paramatma, I start to fuse myself with that Paramatma. There are Bhedas. That Atma is the Mula Prakriti. This has manifested. It has detached itself. Now that Bheda, we are trying to destroy it. We are trying to destroy it through our sadhanas. There, when the destroyer of the differences between Paramatma and Jiva, that is Paratma, Atma, Vibheda Bhedakam, that which brings about the difference. Abhedakam. So, Vibheda Bhedakam, that which brings about the difference, when that is destroyed. Through what? Through Vijnana. Through Vijnana, Vijnanam, Atma Avabhati. Atmani Avabhati. So, Vijnanam, Atmani Avabhati Bhaswaram. So, what happens is, when the true knowledge, when I start meditating on the true knowledge, true nature of the Atma, when I start meditating on the true nature of the Atma, stop associating with the Stula Sharira, and then start to see my Atma, that is the Sukshma Sharira, as a part of the Karana Sharira. When I start meditating on that thought, so we know that the Karana Sharira is the true knowledge. Understanding creator itself is the biggest knowledge. Scientifically speaking, we are all trying to understand why did we manifest? How did we get created? What was the need for it? Or even today, the biggest question about universe is that, when did life begin? When did Earth begin? When did this whole galaxy start? How did it start? How did it start? That is the whole point of building James Webb Telescope, or so many other things. We are just trying to understand how did we come to existence. That's all. So that is the same thing what we are doing over here. But instead of going towards, because there are limitations. No, if we start looking through space, there are limitations, because we are humans. We don't have that kind of range. So we are trying to understand it through spirituality. That's all. So it is also Vijnana. So that's the reason it says Vijnanam Atmani Avabhati. So when I start using this methodical, whatever is the methods that has been prescribed in the Vedantas, those methods, when I start using them, and then when I start to understand that the Bhedaka Bhava, those things that is the reason why there is a difference between this manifested Atma and the Paramatma. And then through negation, when I start giving up the Kriyas, when I start giving up the manifested forms, the material world, then what I'm doing, I'm trying to understand how the tattva that gave rise to this sharira, that tattva is similar to the tattva that has given rise to everything. So we are trying to understand the connection. When we understand the systematic connection between these two, then Atmani, within myself, Atmani, when I start to understand this Abheda Bhava, the similarity between them, the fuse, the connection between the Atma and Paramatma. So, Vijnanam Atmani, within me, when I start to question that and meditate it, then what happens? My consciousness raises. It raises above my Sharira. It is like when we do Yoga Nidra. So when we do Yoga Nidra, I think if anybody has not experienced it, one may experience it through any of the online videos on YouTube. One of the best would be through the instruction from Bihar School of Yoga. We have Yoga Nidra for beginners. It's a 30 minutes uh, video. Not video, it's an audio actually. So one must listen to it. And what happens is, at that point of time, when a person is resting in Shavasana, he has given up the Kriyas. That means he has given up Kriyas where he has completely given up the urge to move anything except for involuntary movements. Involuntary movements includes breathing. All the voluntary movements of the body has been given up. There reaches a point where we are able to even control our involuntary movements. That is, even breathing is we are able to control even breathing over that. So that reaches a state. At that point of time, where our conscious, we start to rotate our consciousness. We start to rotate our consciousness through a process of nyasa. We start to look at our toes. We start to look at our knees. We bring it over here. We first start off with the breathing, how our abdomen moves, how the expansion of chest happens when we are breathing. And when we start to rotate our consciousness, there is a point where in the instructions, we start to focus on something out of our environment, maybe on some sound that is happening somewhere. We are not we're not sticking to that sound. We're not thinking about that sound. We are only following it. Then what happens? Our consciousness moves out of our body, out of the sharira. Then, when we come back, when our consciousness comes back, then there is an instruction in Yoga Nidra where they say, let your consciousness look around the room in which you are in Shavasana, you are resting in Shavasana. So, which means what? The consciousness it can be removed from the body also. It is not restricted to the body. Sharira is lying in Shavasana in a room, and your consciousness left your body and it is following something else. Then when I bring it back, there is a moment where we can even see ourselves. That means I am in Shavasana, but my consciousness is actually there in the room looking at me in Shavasana. This is it's special. Through practice, we actually understand this. It is an experience. It cannot be explained. So it has to be experienced that way. So I would highly suggest that anybody who wants to understand this can try out Yoga Nidra. Yoga Nidra, preferably because many people have a tricky mindset where they are not inquisitive enough to understand the sattva, but rather questioning just for the sake of it. So I would suggest try Yoga Nidra when you're tired. And the biggest challenge is not to fall asleep over that. Nobody is falling asleep. We are just because we're reaching a stage of Nishkriya. That's all. We are not giving up Kriyas, voluntary action, but we are not sleeping. That's the most important thing. So the instruction must be there initially. Otherwise, we will fall asleep. So it's a very good thing to go try out Yoga Nidra to practically understand what is happening over here. So here, what they're seeing is simply that only. Yada, when the Paramatma, sorry, Paratma, Atma Vibheda Bhedakam, when that thing that differentiates between the Atma and Paramatma, that differentiator, that tattva that brings about Bheda, when that is destroyed, when that is destroyed, through what? Through a systematic process, through the Vijnana, then what happens? We start thinking about Atmani, we start thinking about our consciousness. We start thinking about our Atma. How is it related? How is it related to the Paramatma? Then we start to move out of this body. When that happens, our consciousness raises above this Sharira. At that point of time, the knowledge, Bhaswaram, is to shine. That is when the knowledge, the Vijnanam actually shines. That means we have reached that. The point of knowledge is this, to reach that stage where we are able to raise above our Shariras. So it starts to shine. That means it has achieved its focus. Taddeva Maya praviliyate anjasa. Praviliyate anjasa. So anjasa is instantaneously. Praviliyate is disappears. So at that point of time, when we when the consciousness raises above the stula sharira, that is when the Maya of samsara, Advaita has a Mayavada. Advaita says that there is no two forms of Brahman, there is only one form, that is the non-dual form. And whatever we are seeing, which is the manifested form, is a Maya. It is not the true, it is not the truth, it is not reality, it is illusion. That is called as Mayavada. So when our consciousness raises above our Sharira, our material manifested forms, at that point of time, Maya disappears. Praviliyate. Then what happens? Sakaraka. Sakaraka is along with the effects. Karanam, the Karanam Atma Samsrate. That means Samsrate is our samsara. Atma Samsrate is the cause of that samsara. The cause of that samsara. Sakaraka Karakam Atma Samsrate. That means when our consciousness reaches above our material manifestations, we reach a stage where the Maya disappears instantly. Along with that Maya, the Karakas which led to the manifestation of Maya also disappears. That means, assuming now, when I reach that state, when I raise above my body, my Sharira, my material manifestations, what is Maya? What is the kriya in action, or whatever is actually happening? Maybe there is a bhavatmaka sandarbha where there is a lot of outburst of emotions happening. That goes away along with the karakas which led to the prachodana of those particular reactions. That means the cause of my emotional uh, inspiration also goes away. So that is what the meaning of this particular verse is. So this can be practically put into effect, but it requires a lot of contemplation and it requires a lot of discipline. So one experience that can be brought into effect is yoga nidra. Very um, uh, powerful tool, and it can actually help us understand the better. Reaching the point of samadhi is extremely difficult, and with this text it is not possible also. But to understand what the text is trying to say, to understand the tattvas and the methods that has been given to us in the ancient scripts, certain things can be experimented with. So yoga nidra is one thing. So when better to try it when when we are tired, because otherwise, if we think okay, yoga nidra might be something, there are expectations that come into mind. Then I'm going to do is I'm going to start the instruction, and I'm going to start my mind. I'm going to the pace in which my mind starts thinking, it increases. Thinking, oh, what will happen now? What will happen now? That expectation beats everything. That should be avoided. Therefore, better to do it at a point of time where the mind is already tired through kriyas. That is the whole point of yoga also. It is to first tire your body, kaya. You have to uh, give a lot of um, exercise to our kaya, to our body, so that our mind stops focusing on kriyas and it stabilizes. It stabilizes and it just listens. That is the most important thing. So, with this is the 18th shloka Bhāvārtha. Further, when we go towards the samskara sessions and all that, maybe we can talk more about these parts. स्वस्ति प्रजाभ्यः प्रतिपालयन्तां न्यायेन मार्गेण महीमहीषा गोब्राह्मणेभ्यो शुभमस्तु नित्यं लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो भवन्तु कायेन वाचा मनसेन्द्रियैर्वा बुद्ध्यात्मना वा प्रकृते स्वभावात् करोमि यत् सकलं परस्मै नारायणायेति समर्पयामि।